Welcome to r/MaliciousCompliance, where we share stories of people conforming to the letter but not the spirit of a request. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. Customer complained about the driver, but he didn't know he was my boyfriend. I suspended her deliveries and they didn't get any orders until the bill was paid in full. The second story. Coworker on call tells us to stop bothering him, so we do, causing the company to lose $2 million and him to lose his job. The third story. I was sent to the infirmary every time I had a fever, but they didn't know I ate curry and so my temperature went up. The first story is, tell the driver he's terrible? Yes, of course. Many years ago, other half and I worked at the same company, but in completely different departments. Other half worked in sales as a salesman and driver, taking out products on his own local route. There was 13 other local routes in that department. Fresh product delivered daily. The customer base on my other half's department is small businesses, corner shops, sandwich shops, takeouts, eateries, that kind of thing. These small customers would have orders ranging from $10 to $50 at a time. I worked in the offices, predominantly working with the distance national and international customers, very large businesses in the food industry that most people have certainly heard of, for frozen product delivery. Their orders were in the range of $80,000 to $100,000 per month, ordering pallets over pallets of products. I managed their orders in the accounts, doing the age debt collecting on those. One thing I learned at this place that has stayed true at every other job I've had: the small fry customers are the ones that complain the most and the loudest. Due to the nature of the job, I had to take phone calls, a mixture of the large customers haggling to pay their debts later, sprinkled with the local corner shops calling to complain. Took a call one morning from Karen, of course, complaining that her delivery was short. The driver is horrible, and a piece of work and should be fired. She's always having the same problem with this driver. He's never on time, he's surly, rude, and that I should tell the driver to buck his ideas up or they're never ordering product from us again. She made some choice words about the driver, screaming, swearing, the whole 9 yards. I asked the business name and the business location. The location by the area tells me which route they're on before I even look up their account. Once I have the business name, I already recognize them as a problem customer. They have actually been moved from one neighboring route to another due to issues. Read many sales drivers refusing to have anything more to do with them. Karen continues to rant while I do due diligence to look up their account. Karen: so what are you gonna do about it? I want the driver reprimanded immediately. My order was short of this product and that product. He was late. He wouldn't comp and refund the missing products. He's a C and an F, blah blah. Me: well, I'm super sorry about that. Let me fix this for you. I see your order on my screen here, and I also see your handwritten faxed order that was scanned in. Those products aren't on your order, I'm afraid. The driver can't credit items that were not ordered. Karen: yes, I did. I want compensation and the driver fired. Me: I see. Let me dig into this a little further. Right. I see there's been a lot of credits in your account already, also lining up to your orders that didn't include those credited products in the past. That's rather odd. Important to note, it was normal for the local drivers to sometimes put in credits to keep the smaller customers quiet and on board. Sometimes production issues happen. Ordered products are short or not available that day. The business had a whole philosophy that the customer was always right, and to keep them happy. I was in the business for debt collecting, completely opposite to that, and had the power to place customers on hold. They got nothing until they paid up. I noticed that this customer hasn't paid their bill for over 6 weeks. They now fall under my remit. Karen: your driver's lying. I know what I've ordered. Your drivers are always doing this and he was a rude F. I want the driver reprimanded and fired or I'm never ordering again. Given that they have been a problem account for quite some time, I decide to comply. Me: you know, I'll follow this up for you. I can't speak to the driver right now as they're out delivering, but I will reprimand the driver tonight over dinner at home. Karen: silence at first. Wait, what? My other half is 6'2", built like a brick outhouse. He isn't a doormat, but is also the most chill and least rude person I've ever known. Me: we take this very seriously and don't wish to lose your business. We're very sorry to hear you're unsatisfied, and I do see you've had similar problems in the past. Unfortunately, I don't have the authority to fire my other half, but here's what I can do. As your account is now in aged debt, I will place your deliveries on hold, and I promise you won't see that driver until the account is fully audited and paid in full. Karen: he's your husband. I don't think we need to go that far. Me: he is, but that isn't relevant. I insist we look into your complaint and take it seriously. I'll order a personal audit of your account as all these credits for product not included in your past orders is concerning. I'll get this all straightened out for you. If you decide to take your business elsewhere after the audit is complete and the account settled, we'll be sorry to see you go, but completely understand your stance if we can't find a resolution. Karen splutters, mumbles that it's all okay, she was having a bad day and it's not all that bad. Me, I know, don't worry. Let me audit this and get you a final correct total. And the driver won't bother you again until the account is square and you're happy with the service. Aftermath. Customer's aged bill came in at $150 more for items that were credited to keep them happy and quiet, when she still insisted to complain that they were not getting product that they did not order in the first place, and tried to make out my other half was terrible at his job. They didn't get any orders till the account was paid in full, and customer never made a peep again. Husband continued to deliver to them after the audit and settling the bill, and always walked in there with a big smile. Those drivers in that department that had dealt with the customer previously took great pleasure in the fact I handed the customer's A to them. Husband and I remember this moment fondly when we reminisce about the time we worked at the same place, and husband does get a proud eating grin that wifey stuck up for him. Moral of the story: B. Be careful who you lie and complain to, because that's going to bite you in the A one day. Edit. The small customers would always be the ones that complained. Some would have valid claims to be nice about it. You know, common sense humans. The rest, sheesh. No way I was going to let her scream and swear at me to begin with. But this was one of the rare moments where she really picked on the wrong guy. My guy. How I stayed calm during that call is a monument to consummate professionalism. I take this MC and run with it till I die. The next story is, Sure will stop bothering you. I used to work at a call center that performed level 1 support for a bunch of companies that wanted to outsource it. Today our story will focus in on Jackwagon, a tier 2 tech for our client big customer, BC, that doesn't want to do his job. Before I begin the story, let me give context about the kind of guy Jackwagon is. He rarely responded to escalate issues until 2 to 3 days after we send them up. We know this isn't because he was busy, because the rest of the tier 2 team wasn't busy. He never read our documentation and frequently routed tickets back to us asking us to do things we'd already done. He'd also route them back to us with instructions on how to move forward with more complex procedures, also known as do his job for him. It was bad enough to the point where I had started an Excel spreadsheet with the ticket number, name, date, reason for escalation, Jackwagon's reason for routing it back, and why it shouldn't have been routed back. This is important later. The incident itself happened on a Saturday, when I unfortunately wasn't in. A satellite site of BC called in reporting a system wasn't working. This was priority 1 system that had to have any issues resolved immediately. Unfortunately, it was also so buttoned up that we weren't able to access it as tier 1, so it always got escalated. As soon as we get the call, one of the agents sends the escalation email and per the on-call procedures for after-hours issues called Jackwagon. Jackwagon didn't answer. The procedure states that we have to call him every 15 minutes and leave a voicemail every time, so that's what was done. Then an email is received from Jackwagon. Stop calling me, I'm busy. So we did. The next part happened on Sunday when I was in the office. Jackwagon calls, furious that we hadn't done our job and the system was still down. I tell him we can't touch that system because we don't have access. I point out that according to our documentation, we'd call him to the tune of 6 times. He huffed and hung up. Then the BC IT director called. He wanted to know what happened. I gave him a dutiful report and he stated that he would like to speak to my manager. I informed him management was not in on Sundays, but I could make a phone call and see if we could get them to call him. He said that wouldn't be necessary and hung up. On Monday, I came into an email from my manager asking for the spreadsheet I had been keeping and for me to come in and see him, along with the rest of the crew working with BC. I sent it to him and we showed up for debriefing. The manager has successfully proven via documentation on our ticketing system and theirs that we had followed all given procedures. Blame was dropped squarely on Jackwagon, whose lack of action had lost the company $2 million. Turns out that Satellite Site was demoing BC's services to a client and that they were negotiating these services for all their locations. But after the issue failed to be resolved in a timely manner and caused significant loss of income, they weren't interested in moving forward with the contract. My manager, who knew of my pure hatred for Jackwagon, I was the head agent on that account, so I dealt with him the most, and of my vendetta against him, casually mentioned that Jackwagon had been screwing up a lot lately, hadn't he? The director hadn't heard anything about that, so my manager mentioned my spreadsheet to him. I came in the following Monday to find my manager waiting by my desk, grinning ear to ear. The news had just come down that Jackwagon was fired. I was so happy that I bought pizza for the entire BC team. The director was so impressed with me over the course of me contracting with them that he offered me a job. but I would have had to move to Texas, which is currently not an option. The last story is, increased my temperature so I could get sent home after mandatory temperature taking. This happened around 2011 in Singapore, during I think the swine flu, H1N1 pandemic. I was reminded of it because of the ongoing pandemic measures. For context, SG finally restarted the third school term today, and amongst other measures, students have to take their temperatures in class. I'm on mobile, so I apologize if there aren't any line breaks. Back when I was but a young teen myself, we were at the height of H1N1. SG already had several protocols put into place after SARS, and while schools weren't shut down, we did have daily temperature taking. I think it was once at the start of the day, once after lunch. If you hit 37.5 Celsius and above, you were sent to the sickbay or home depending on how high it was, and whether you felt okay. My temperature ran pretty high as a teen. 37.1 to 37.3 was my average temperature, which raised some teachers' eyebrows, but it wasn't at the cutoff, and I felt and looked fine, so it was a non-issue. But at least once I was told that if my temperature reached 37.5, I would have to go to the sickbay or be sent home. However, bear in mind the second temperature check of the day was after lunch, when you had eaten or spent the period running around the field like teens are wont to do. My temperature post-food and general teen chaos would be just high enough to warrant the sickbay, even though I felt totally okay. The sickbay wasn't uncomfortable, and I could usually nap before someone came to check on me, but getting sent down for something I knew wasn't true. That I had a fever when it was just food irritated me. Just because teenage minds work that way, I guess? The teacher definitely knew it too, because this happened maybe once or twice a week at least. So the malicious compliance begins. The class I had right before lunch was home ec. Naturally, when we started our cooking module, we ended up eating whatever we cooked for lunch. And then one day we cooked curry. Nice, hot, spicy curry. Knowing full well my body heats up like a firecracker when I eat good curry, I gulped it all down. I started to sweat. My cheeks were warm. It was really good curry. And then once lunch ended, we took our temperatures. 37.7, 37.6. My thermometer beeped loudly like the traitor it was. Physically, I was fine, but rules are rules, especially in a pandemic. I waited for 5 minutes and it still registered as a fever. Imagine that. Who knew being in a hot, humid classroom in a hot, humid country after eating hot, spicy curry could keep your temperature up? The teacher asked if I felt okay. She knew I'd had curry. I knew I'd had curry. She knew my temperature always ran higher. And I guess this is where the malicious compliance kicks in. Because knowing I felt totally fine, I just said, well, I guess my temperature isn't going down. And so I packed my bag and trudged down to the sickbay. She didn't say anything or looked irritated, but seemed kinda resigned to it. My temperature wouldn't go down past 37.5 after that. It wasn't a fever, and I didn't fall sick later. My body just lights up whenever I eat food. So that day I think I had to have my mom come pick me up, which I feel bad about in hindsight, but hey, safety rules are safety rules. In the end, there was no severe outcome for anybody. I spent a few more times in the sickbay, but I never went home early again. For that reason anyway. But that was the first and only time I deliberately gave myself a fever with someone else knowing that I wasn't sick. And I managed to get a half day out of it despite feeling and being totally fine. Edit. To clarify, one reason I got away with this was because each of us had used an oral thermometer. So spicy mouth equals higher temperature. If they measured it with an ear thermometer, I probably wouldn't have gotten away with it. And unfortunately, my metabolism isn't as high as this story makes it seem. My body just reacts strongly to being out in the sun or eating hot and spicy food. Hit the like button to support the channel and subscribe. Have a good day.